Hi, I'm Catherine Costa from TrueNorthArts.com. I want to welcome you all to the Vision Journal workshop, and this is our Vision Journal number 4. So this is the overview of what we'll be doing today. We've already had the meet and greet for the people who are here live. The next section will be I'll show you a look inside my journal and share some of the different techniques that I use, and you are welcome to take some of those techniques and play with them in your own journal. I then have prepared a soul journey, which is a guided meditation. Then we have an oracle card, each one of you received in your envelope. And then I will cover the 3 different prompts and journal activities. After that, you'll have an hour of open studio where you can do whatever you'd like with that time, playing with the different things that I've presented. Then we'll come back around and we'll do a show and tell, and we get to see what you've created. So the first part is I want to show you my journal and how, I know many of you, this is your first time taking one of these workshops with me. I call it a vision journal because it really all stemmed out of the vision board that I had created and the word for the year that I had created in 2017. So this is a look at my journal for that year. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to explore my one word and my vision for the year. My word for the year was believe. And I knew in 2017, I had some limiting beliefs that I needed to work through. And so creating a vision board, I'm all for. I think it's great. And picking a word for the year. But it's really important that we keep working with it. And that's what my journal does for me. It's a place where I dream, I brainstorm, I have checklists of action steps. And my goal when I set out to do this was I wanted to work with what I already have on hand. And so I took a catalog from a local art college and I altered it. And, you know, I've collected so many things over the years, so I figured, let's see how much of this stuff that I already have I could use without buying anything. So when I set out to create this journal workshop, you are welcome to use a journal you already have. You might have a notebook, anything you want to use, or you might want to follow my lead and take a catalog and recycle it like I did. Whatever you'd like to do. And so with this, so talking about a word for the year, my word this year is flow. And I really love the idea of having a word that is helps with setting an intention. And so I thought I'd share a little bit about how I work with my word for the year. So in this particular case, when I first came up with the word flow, it actually picked me. And when I was thinking and reflecting on it, one thing I really desired was getting into the creative zone. I love being in that creative zone. I love feeling that flow. And I experienced it a lot, but I wanted to, you know, when I thought of the word flow and it attracted me, I was thinking, oh yeah, I want more of that. I also associated the words ease and grace with that. And that is something I want this year to encompass, especially knowing that it's my first full year of being self-employed. I want a lot of ease and grace and not struggle. One day I was lying on the futon here in my studio, and I was really observing my body, and I started thinking about my circulation in my body and inflammation, and my feet were swelling at the moment, and then I was thinking about self-care. And so here's an example of how my word for the year, and this was true every year, there are different aspects of it. It might be about creativity, it might be about my work, it could be about my body, my health, my home. When I went to go pay bills one month, I was thinking about cash flows, like ping, and building my business. And then I thought about blocks. What are some blocks that come up with flow? And so I've been collecting throughout this year different examples, different metaphors, and they're helping me navigate my life. In fact, one day I had a real big conflict, and in my mind, it kept going over and over, go with the flow, go with the flow. And I'm like, hey, that's my mantra for the year. And when I say that, for me, it helps me to relax. So with a word are often some supporting words like ease and grace, allow, and trust. And so I share this with you because I'm encouraging you to have your own intentional word. And you can work with them in different ways. My example, I've got one that I work with for a whole year. And I love it because then it gives me time without any pressure to explore the various aspects of it. But you might pick a word just for a month, or you might pick a word and say, well, what's coming up for me now in this week? And I'd like to set that as my word for the week. It might be an afternoon or an evening like today, or it might be just a moment. So for example, you received an oracle card and there may be a word either on the front of that card or in the little notes that went with it that might be your word for today. So I've shared this with you to give you this idea of considering how you might work with words in an intentional way in your journal. So here's a look inside my journal. On the right is what the catalog looked like before I altered it. It was kind of neat that I had that target mandala, Mayan kind of effect on it. I really love the word catalyst and I kept that. You can see how up at the top there's a card from one of my decks to have my word. And I had this interesting photo I had taken of that card with this quote on this piece of paper that said, believe you can and you're halfway there. I liked that photo so much that I printed it large and I covered it and I cut out the words not long now. So this was about 9 months before I had quit my day job that I had been at. When I quit, I had been there for 13 years. So I really knew that this was what I so desired for the year and didn't know if I could pull it off. I didn't know if I could believe that I could do that. I didn't have a glue stick. Oh, it was dry. So I actually used duct tape because again, I wanted to use everything that I had. And what I found is that I really loved that for the cover because it made it very kind of waterproof and also very, I like the way it bent and moved. And inside, you'll see, I don't know, I know some people who've taken this workshop don't feel comfortable with collage. And I love collage. It comes very easily for me. But just some tips, like the number one thing that I recommend that you do and that you think of is for your collages to look good, think layer, layer, layer. Put things together next to one another. Think of it like a jigsaw puzzle because that gives that feeling of cohesiveness. So if we're looking at like in the top, you can see what the catalog looked like on the right and what I did on the left. You can see in that top one, I really liked a lot of those images because it was an art catalog and I thought that was really neat. So I didn't change too much of that. And along the bottom, I put some things that I wanted to focus on and put my name there. On the bottom, you can see I did a lot more changing. I didn't really care for the image of the president of the institution. He didn't do anything for me. So what I did was I cut out a bunch of different things. In fact, I got a closer image of that. Let me see here. Here we go. And so somebody from my online community had sent me the mandala that you see there. And I thought, oh, I want to keep that in there. And somebody else had sent me the card with peacocks. So what I do when I'm creating my collages is often I don't think about it. I don't overthink. I work with my intuition. So what I do is I just pick things that I like. I pick words that I'm attracted to. At the top, it says, trust the timing of your life. That really spoke to me. And so then months later, when it came time to where I was really feeling the pressure of leaving, I really needed to trust. That helps me with feeling patient with where I'm at. And rethink the comfort zone felt so much like it was foretelling what was going to happen. And the word moving on, that was just another thing I had cut out. I liked the book, so you can see I kept some of the things from the page, but then added to it. But there are times when I want to do more journal writing. So you can see where I've added some lined paper, some solid scrapbook paper, and I happen to have collected a lot of washi tape that I bought on sale. It's this patterned Japanese tape. And so I just very quickly just taped some stuff in. I really worked fast because I don't have a lot of time. I also do other types of art journaling, mixed media, but with this journal, I wanted to keep everything dry. I didn't want to get into painting and get things messy. I wanted to be able to work with it on the fly in short notice and keep it as dry as possible, because then that way I wouldn't feel like I needed a lot of time or dedicated space to work on my journal. So one thing I love to do is do creative list making. And so here's an example inside of my journal from this year, where I found this image of this from a magazine of these gorgeous cookies, these chakra cookies. And I had added the quote up at the top. And then on the right, you'll see where I brainstormed a list of, at the time, some thoughts of the courses I currently offer, some things I want to develop. So when you're looking through magazines at images to include in your journal, look for images that have interesting shapes that you could use for brainstorming. Here is a look at another one of my journals where the bamboo hat became the lines in that became a great place for, again, doing some list making. Sometimes we want to add pages in, and so a quick way to do that is you can tip in a page. So the way you do that is if you look in the top right, you cut your paper so it will fit within your journal, and it's just a little bit smaller. And I just use some Japanese washi tape and I put it on either side, and voila, you instantly add a paper. This one happened to have two different colored sides to that paper, so it makes for an interesting page. You can also tip in a different size and shape. So here, when I'm coloring, I often have some inexpensive paper underneath it to use as a blotter, and then emerges these really pretty circular mandala impressions. So I cut one of them out and I taped that in, and when you open it up, you can see I now put in a circular piece of paper in my journal. And in the center, I cut out an image from a magazine of a Don Mala created by Kathy Klein and wrote in a quote, and I added some little colored pencil marks so you can have fun by playing and putting some other types of pages in. You can even add a little pad of paper. So here I took some lined paper, cut it to fit my journal, stapled it along the top, and then in this particular example up at the top where it says to do, hello, daily, quills, whatnot, that's also Japanese washi tape. It doesn't have to have washi tape. Not all of mine do, but since I had it and it looked good, it added a nice finishing touch. So now I've got 3 pieces of paper on this one page where I can elaborate. Because on the bottom underneath, that image from a magazine was so gorgeous to me and may inspire and inform in a mandala or other artwork. And there's really, I didn't want to cover it up with other collage items, or there wasn't a spot for journal writing. So by adding this, it sort of adds some interest and layers of places to play in the journal. In our last workshop, I presented the idea of creating a slash pocket. This is really easy. All you do is on one page, you cut a slit, and then you tape or staple that page to the page behind it, next, that comes after it. So you just tape along the right and the bottom. And here I just used, packing tape. And then I end up, I liked the top where there's artwork and it said expand your skills. I then went in and I collaged more images and stuff that really kind of spoke to expanding my skills and expanding my horizons. Now I've got a pocket for putting in the journal envelopes or items that I didn't have a chance to work with yet in my journal. Here's another idea I shared recently on Instagram from my 2017 Vision Journal. Sometimes I know that when I'm going to be journal writing, I just have some icky feelings I just want to get out on the page, or I've got things that are worrisome and I want to get it out, but I don't really ever want to read it again. So here's an example where I did that journal writing to get it all out. It's not even in a penmanship that is all that legible. It wasn't intended for that because I knew I was going to go back and draw over it, and then I colored it in with marker, and in the spaces in between, I just doodled with a ballpoint pen and added some spiral little design, squiggly lines, and added more marker color. And it becomes a place where it helps me to shine by letting out what's going on inside and then creating something pretty out of it. I mean, I think this is pretty, and it was a lot of fun to do. I didn't do it all in one sitting, so it was kind of fun over time to just keep going back and adding some details here and there. So here's a new idea for those of you who've been following these workshops. Each month I like to give something new. We just recapped what we've done so far. I sent all of you one of these little tags, and one thing you can do with it, you can do whatever you want with that. You can put a quote on it and glue it in. You can cut it up. I cut it in half and I stapled it to create a little tab for this page. And then you can see where I stapled it and I covered it with that orange pattern. And that isn't washi tape. That is actually a really pretty border that was in a magazine. So I tore that out, cut it out, and just used a glue stick to glue over it to make it look better. And I pulled out some of my rubber stamps and I stamped the word reminder. And then I used the dot, the period, the little dot that's the period in the stamps, and I just added that. And then with a pen, I added the words pep talk for when you don't feel lucky. So one of the topics today that we're going to cover is about lucky people versus unlucky people. And so I haven't written in it this section yet, but I'm going to take some of those ideas that have inspired me, and I'm going to be journal writing tonight on that page. So you can see in the photo on the right, you can see where that creates a nice little tab. And hopefully that will, anytime I'm feeling a little low or feeling down, feeling worried, I can go back and get my pep talk pretty quickly.